Are you struggling to get the URL from a WebView in your Java application? You're not alone. Today, we're diving into how to obtain that URL using WebResourceRequest. I totally understand how frustrating it can be when you're trying to override URL loading and the method you used is now deprecated. It can feel like you're stuck in a maze with no way out. Here's the specific question we're addressing. One user asked, "How can I obtain the URL of the WebView to override the URL loading?" They mentioned that the method should override URL loading with a string parameter is deprecated in API level 21. Sound familiar? Let's tackle this together. So what's the deal with the should override URL loading method? In API level 21 and above, you need to use the should override URL loading method that takes a WebResourceRequest parameter. This allows you to access the URL directly from the request object. And stick around. At the end of this video, I'll share a quick tip that will make your WebView handling even smoother. To obtain the URL from the WebView, the user should first access the WebResourceRequest object provided in the should override URL loading method. Next, the user can retrieve the URL by calling the getURL method on the WebResourceRequest object. This will give them the URL they need. After obtaining the URL, the user can decide whether to load it in the WebView or handle it differently, such as opening it in a browser. Finally, the user should ensure that their WebView client is set correctly in their activity or fragment to handle the URL loading. Fun fact, did you know that the first web browser was created in 1990? It was called World Wide Web, and it was a far cry from the browsers we use today. Now, let's look at the answers provided by other users. An alternative approach shared by a user involves simply retrieving the current URL of the WebView. They suggest using the method webview.getURL to obtain the URL, which you can then use as needed. Here's that quick tip I promised. Always check for null values when working with WebResourceRequest to avoid crashes. It's a small step that can save you a lot of headaches. And there you have it. You now know how to get the URL from a WebView using WebResourceRequest. If you found this video helpful, please subscribe for more tips and tricks on Java programming.